Hello, welcome everyone to rambling first impressions of Inhumans IMAX, I guess. I don't know exactly the release of this production. Like, I know that it's going to be a TV show on ABC. Is this replacing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? I don't know, maybe. I don't care at all about S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Apparently, they introduced the Inhumans in that show. I'll get into that a little later. I haven't seen that. That's just what I've heard. But anyway, I'm out in public again for these recordings, but I feel like they come out pretty well, so you might hear a little background noise, but I know that doesn't interfere with the recording and my voice. I'm trying to get to some quieter spots, but anyway, so this IMAX thing, it said that it's like there's a part 1 and a part 2. I'm assuming that this IMAX release that I just watched is the part 1 and part 2 combined, instead of like there being another IMAX release. Like, this is part 1 and then I have to go back to the theater again for part 2. I don't know. I think that part 1 and part 2 are what I just watched, and like those are like the first two episodes of the show that's going to be airing in September. But as far as if I liked Inhumans, I thought it was okay. It's better than Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I wish that they didn't. I wish that they just made a movie out of this instead of had it be a TV show. Like, I'm not like a big Inhumans fan or anything. Like, I'm not super familiar with that source material. It's been a long time, but I certainly have read the first appearance of the Inhumans in Fantastic Four, and then I also recently reread Infinity. I mean, the first time I read Infinity, it was like I kind of just skimmed through it, and it was sort of like that the second time. The Inhumans, or at least Black Bolt, and Maximus, they have roles in that story, and so I could kind of see, how the unique characterization of them through that, which I guess is kind of nice, a nice job that Hickman did on that. From this show, and I'm gonna do no spoilers, non-spoilers. Essentially, what the basic plot is Maximus is trying to overthrow Black Bolt's reign as king in Attilan, Maximus is he has an interesting philosophy, and I feel like so I feel like it's sympathetic, and they did a good job in this production of kind of illustrating that early on, Maximus as a sympathetic villain. However, he is very extreme. Like, what he's trying to do, I'm like, why couldn't you just like work on that slowly, and then instead of trying to overthrow the royal kingdom, but it's a cool premise. It's something different than what is in the in the MCU so far, but like I wish that this was a movie because I feel like everything would be so much better quality, you know, because like the premise, I found it interesting. You know, I think the Inhumans society of Attilan, I don't know if I'm Attilan, I don't remember how it was pronounced in the show. I think that that just that caste system that they have, and like how Terrigenesis, they use that to organize their society, that's super interesting. And I didn't really get a sense for why Black Bolt believed in this you know, system of government so much. You get more of a sense for Maximus, you know, and what he's about, which is cool. But as far, that's pretty much my favorite thing, just the premise of it. And you know, after looking at this, I'm sort of like, well, I might be kind of curious about checking out some more Inhumans comic books now, and just read more about, you know, about these characters and you know, their hierarchy and their kingdom, because I think that could be cool. And I sort of had a little bit of that actually after reading Infinity, because what I saw in there, I was like, this could be kind of cool. And like Black Bolt, you know, he's also not the most straight-laced type of ruler, you know. Like, in fact, they were villains when they first appeared in Fantastic Four. Yeah, Black Bolt, he makes some decisions that you know, are potentially sacrifices, yeah, stuff that is somewhat in his own self-interest. You know, he's not a completely selfless guy, as far as I've seen in what I've read of him. But yeah, I can't really say too much more than that. But you know, I think that's just kind of interesting. That's an interesting type of leader, as opposed to like in contrast with you know, some of the other Marvel characters like Captain America, or even Iron Man. Like Black Bolt, his top priority isn't necessarily you know, the well-being of his people. But yeah, Maximus in this show, in these first 2 episodes, or I don't know if this is the first episode, like a long pilot or something. It has to be 2, because if it was 1, then that would be like a 2-hour block on TV that this would be taking up. It could be, but the network would have to believe in this show a lot. It seems like they're putting a fair amount of money into it, because there's lots of special effects in it and action. But I'll get into that in a bit. But yeah, what I was saying about Maximus is that he, in this, in the show, he seems to profess, at least, that he, you know, has the well-being of, you know, the subjects of the kingdom, their well-being, you know, as his top priority, and that Black Bolt does not. So that's kind of interesting. But of course, Maximus, it really doesn't seem like that is indeed his top priority, the well-being of the people, but he wants them to think that, at least. Because, you know, it seems like he has some greed for power, and he's power hungry, and perhaps vengeful against the royal family. So that's a cool premise, but I feel like it could have been a lot better, a lot tighter, a lot more dramatic if this was just a movie, because this originally was slated as like a movie for 2019. I think in between the first Infinity War movie and the second Infinity War movie. But they pulled that, and people were like, whoa, what happened? Where did that go? You know, is this not happening? What's up? You know, and they thought that it might be a different movie or something else, and then it became its own TV show. And I don't know if this was retroactive, because they were like, all right, you know, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the ratings are low on that show. People aren't watching it, so let's get Inhumans in there. That's gonna draw attention to it. And I don't think that it really did. But they threw in more comic book stuff into that show, apparently, with that. And yeah, I don't think that really worked, because then they're like, all right, well, let's throw Ghost Rider in this show, try and sell it on that. And there was a little bit of an uproar about that, you know, not like in a negative way, but there was some hype, I guess I should say, about that Ghost Rider showing up on that show. But I wasn't interested, you know, because it's mainly just the pacing of, well, actually it's a couple things. It's one, it's not that interesting. The characters aren't that interesting to me. Everyone says, like, you know, after season 2 is when it improves so much, but like, I don't know, man, it doesn't seem worth it to me. How good can it be, you know? It doesn't seem like it doesn't seem worth it to me. And that's a lot of time that you have to watch, you know. They're like 40-minute episodes. You know, if I'm not paying to watch them, then I remember I had to kind of keep up. Like, I watched like the first 2 or 3 episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I watched them online, like through the abc.com, and like a bunch of ads would show up. So it took like over an hour for me to watch one episode, and it just wasn't that interesting. There's a lot of story padding, and apparently that still doesn't really go away, even as the show supposedly improves. But sorry about that. That was a bit of a digression. But yeah, I just feel like it's a shame, because the Inhumans, they're cool, you know? This premise is cool, and, you know, there's potentially good drama in this. And there's a fair amount of good drama in these first 2 episodes. I will say that, like, I was sitting in the theater and I was like, all right, I'm not sure, like, you know, what this is going to look like since it's on an IMAX camera. Could this look movie quality, or will this look like, you know, what's on my TV at home, just on a bigger screen, you know? And it was. What I mean by that, it's supposed to look better in a theater or whatever, but just, it looks TV quality, not, it doesn't look like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, it looks a little off and low budget, like the, and it's hard to put my finger on it exactly, but it just looks different. Like the lighting, like, you know, how the lighting is saturated, or like the saturation also in the color balance and color correction, perhaps filters. This stuff isn't as carefully, the sets look more fake. You know, when in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios movies, those look quite good, you know, because this is a different production company. This is like the TV studio, and when I first was sitting in there, I saw who the writer was, Scott Buck, who was the showrunner for Iron Fist, and a lot of people hated that show. I didn't hate it, you know. I made a video about that. I didn't hate it, at least when I watched it for the first time, and I'm not really interested in going back and watching it again, you know. Yeah, I was like, this might be terrible, and I didn't think it was terrible. I thought that it was all right. Yeah, the things that were, and it's mainly because I was intrigued by this premise, and by the setting. That Inhuman kingdom and hierarchy is really interesting. In Terra Genesis, it's like there's worthwhile story that could be told about how governments structure themselves and organize people. That could be really cool. The things that kind of detracted from that for me, like that would have been a cool movie, for in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and you could have got Black Bolt in there with everyone else. That would have been awesome, Like in the comics, Black Bolt, he's a member of the Illuminati. That group of superheroes that guard the Infinity Gems, and he has one that he guards. I would have liked to see that. I feel like that it would have been made. It would have just been a better told. That premise would be told better in movie form. But the things that were detracting, like I said, were the costumes are not super great. Like what's his name, Karnak. The makeup on him, that looks really bad. It looks like someone has, it looks like someone's painted makeup on him. It doesn't look like his skin or whatever. Maybe it's supposed to be that. Maybe that's supposed to be some war paint or something. I don't know. And then the Medusa's costume, that didn't look very good to me. It looked kind of weird. It looked really low budget, Black Bolt's crown thing that he wore, that looked kind of stupid to me. It's like, take that thing off him, Gorgon's costume, that looked alright. I mean, I didn't think those legs looked terrible either. They hid them nicely with those pants, and also that the shirt and pants fit his body nicely. But yeah, Gorgon, that actor was my favorite actor out of this show so far. He's really good, and he has good charisma. What else? Yeah, Black Bolt's costume. It didn't look terrible. It didn't look great. I didn't love it. I feel like Black Bolt's costume, Black Bolt could look so cool if like the film department, like the Marvel Studios film department, got their hands on it. It would have looked awesome. It would have looked a little more closer to the comic book version, probably. Or not that that's necessarily always what I want, or that's necessarily always the best thing, but I just think it would have served that comic book image, better and done it justice more. Lockjaw, they did a decent job for TV, but it's like, man, I'm in the movie theater, I had to pay like almost $20 for this thing, and this wasn't even a feature-length film, I'm like, can we have this be a little higher quality? The animations, it was a bit stiff with Lockjaw. He didn't blend in with that, with just the look that the camera was picking up, and the sets and whatnot. The sets don't look, I think I said that already, yeah, the sets don't look so realistic. Crystal, her costume was alright. One thing that I thought that it was alright. I'm wondering though, like, if this is something I'm really not so sure about, like, if the film department, if that costume team, if they put together Crystal's costume, if it would have if they would have dyed her hair black like they did, because I don't remember what that thing is in the comics. Like, is that I don't think her hair is dyed black in the comics, but I don't know what it is. Is that some sort of headband or whatever? Would they have tried to make some, you know, expensive headband prop for her? Maybe. As far as acting goes, really, Gorgon, I would have kept him. I liked him a lot. Maximus was pretty good. I feel like if they had TV level direction, not TV level, I'm sorry, if they had like the film level direction or other the film level actors, that probably would have just made him seem even better. But like Medusa, not so into her. I wish that they had a different actress. Black Bolt, he was okay, but I kind of wish that there was a different actor. Who was the other one? Karnak. He was also okay, but he seemed very TV quality, TV level of an actor. Who are the other characters? I mean, there's Lockjaw, and I've said already, if this was a film, he would have looked so much better. You know, like Rocket and Groot, they look great. Their animations aren't very stiff, and they also just, the texture on them looks a lot more realistic, and I feel like I would have got that with Lockjaw, and that's more of what I wanted. So yeah, not big on these actors. Oh, and Crystal, I forgot about her. I would have probably recast her as well. She seemed pretty TV quality actress as well. Now, these guys, I suppose, are serviceable. You know, it's not like, you know, I'm not angered, I'm not offended by any of these actors that I don't like so much. But it's just a little bit, you know, it's a little bit of a you know, missed opportunity. Like, this could have been, this property could have been made a lot cooler and a lot more interesting. And this is a type of thing that they don't have so much of, like other properties that are similar to this in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Perhaps you could make Thor kind of more like this, because yeah, just from reading the comics, I was like, Maximus, he seems kind of like a Loki, you know, except for he doesn't have that reputation of being like mischievous or evil, you know. And he still is kind of like Loki, except for he, because he's trying to, you know, overthrow the kingdom and claim the throne for himself. Except for he seems to have a little more of a benevolent purpose for it, you know. His intent isn't as malicious as Loki, even though it still is malicious, you know. But anyway, so I think that about wraps it up. You know, like, this was certainly not, you know, the Marvel Studios production team that they had on this. Like, I forget her name, who casts all the Marvel movies. It's like, I think it's Sarah Haley Finn, perhaps. I think that's her name, but she is excellent at casting characters for those movies, and I would have been really interested in seeing the actors that she would have picked to portray the Inhumans on film. Because, you know, like Medusa, she's really cool. Like, just from like seeing her on I think there was an old Fantastic Four cartoon series. The Inhumans showed up in that show, I believe, and like Johnny and Crystal, I think they had a bit of a romance, brief, and Medusa, I remember being in there, and Medusa's kind of creepy, and just in that show, and this was a really long time ago, and also just seeing her in the comics, she just has this presence about her, her hair is always moving. Her hair definitely would have looked a lot better in the if this was a movie. She just sort of has this a bit of a menace to her, and that I kind of miss, because she's a little creepy, but the action, I forgot about that. The action, not so great. Like there were some fight scenes. Medusa had a fight scene, and that was really weird. She just kind of stood still, and the guards, the attackers of Medusa, the people that were attacking Medusa, it was very strange direction for them. They just kind of walked up and got swatted away. They, didn't really try and move much or anything. It wasn't that entertaining, if I say so. And then Karnak had a fight, and that looked okay, but just how it was filmed, like he does a decent job with the stunt double for him did a decent job with that, but didn't look. But just how it was like filmed and like how they were cutting, I wasn't into it. I felt like that would have been done a lot better on film as a film production. But I mean, like, just you could kind of say that about most films. Like even non-superhero films. Like if the Marvel Studios film crew and creative teams were working on, a subpar film, it would be a better film. So I guess that's kind of obvious at this point. But anyway, oh yes, and then at the beginning, and I remember, the beginning, getting that good first impression is what I was looking for, and it didn't do that, just because it opens up and it looks like kind of a cheap set, and the camera, it doesn't look super high def, like film quality, the color the color, the lighting, the balancing of the light saturation and color, and then I see the first Inhuman that we see, Triton is his name. The name isn't ringing any bells for like comic characters in my head. I don't remember him off just right off the cuff, like what he does and all. But the makeup on Triton, that was not so great. It certainly looked like, a man with some prosthetics and some green paint on his face. It didn't have that nice texture like Gamora or other aliens and Guardians of the Galaxy have. So that's all I've got to say about this. I'm not gonna watch this TV show, but I may read some Inhumans comics. I may be on the lookout for some of those in the future. And as far as like, would I recommend you going to this movie or this showcasing of the first 2 episodes or pilot for this show? I'd have to say no, because this is more expensive than a regular movie also. It cost me almost $20. So yeah, and it's not even feature length. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend this movie. or it's not even a movie. I wouldn't recommend going to see this in theaters, but it's okay, you know. It's okay. It's a bit of a missed opportunity for Marvel Studios. Like, I feel like this could have made a really awesome Marvel Studios movie, and you know, alongside the Avengers, this could have been really cool. But you know, they needed to use it to try and get eyes on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which you know, you can see how that turned out now. You know, it's been canceled, and it wasn't very good to begin with, or it wasn't that good, at least. I haven't seen it, so I can't really say. I mean, I haven't seen past like the first 3 episodes, and or 2 or 3 episodes, and then I also watched a couple spare random episodes later in season 1. One of which was actually kind of entertaining. It had Lorelai in it. That was kind of cool. And I think Sif from the Warriors 3, who appeared in Thor, she also appeared in that TV show, in that episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that was kind of cool. But anyway, that show has been canceled, I believe. I think it has been, at least. I'm pretty sure it has been. See, I'm not following it, so I don't know. And this is replacing it. So will this garner more attention? No. I mean, do they think they're making something like Game of Thrones? I mean, that's something that people compared the premise to when the idea was being thrown around that this would go into production a couple years ago. But just with the film quality, production values of this show, and the acting quality, you know, it's not gonna draw comparisons to that. Or at least, I don't know. Perhaps people will draw the comparison between that show and Inhumans, but. As far as I can see, the only similarity between those two, and I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I don't really know. I just know that it's like, you know, it's a very dramatic series with a lot of twists and betrayals and power struggles. So in that regard, you know, there are some similarities with Inhumans, but as for, on a quality level, I don't think that people would make that connection. So anyway, that's all I've got, and thanks for listening.